The November 13th meeting of the Cannabis Advisory Committee is now called to order. Moderator, can you please call the roll?
Chair Vasterling.
Present.
Vice Chair Payan.
Present.
Member Beck.
Present.
Member Brode. Member Cohen.
Present.
Member Halpern-Fulsher. Member Heidelbach. Member Nguyen. Member Levine.
Here.
Member Perry.
Present.
Member Polson.
Present.
Member Ramirez.
Present.
Member Smith. All right, we have quorum.
Thank you, moderator. A quorum has been established. So before we get started, I'd first like to welcome a new committee member to the Cannabis Advisory Committee, Melanie Perry, the Deputy Division Chief of the Northern Division of the California Department of Alcohol Beverage Control, is going to be replacing Paul Tupy. So my sincere thank you to Paul Tupy for his participation on the committee. And I would like to give a warm welcome to Deputy Chief Perry, and I look forward to working with you. Our second agenda item is the adoption of the meeting minutes from our August meeting. And at this time, I'd like to hold for any discussion amongst members. Does anyone have any suggested edits or would like to make a motion to approve?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Great. Thank you. I'd now like to open it for public comments on this item. Moderator, can you please open the floor for comments?
We are now taking public comment on agenda item number 2, adoption of the August meeting minutes. All commenters will have 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning and will have 1 opportunity to speak on each agenda item. Please keep comments limited to this agenda item. If you would like to make a comment, those logged into the meeting will raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon next to your name. If you called into the meeting, press star 3. When it's your turn, I will call your name and unmute your microphone. With that, we will go to our first commenter. All right, not seeing any comments. We will now close public comment on agenda item number 2, adoption of the August meeting minutes.
Thank you, moderator. Can we please call the roll?
When I call your name, please state how you are voting on this motion. Member Beck.
Aye.
Member Brode, which we don't have here today with us. Member Cohen.
Aye.
Member Levine.
Aye.
Member Perry.
Aye.
Member Polson.
Aye.
Thank you. Member Ramirez.
Aye.
We don't have Member Smith with us today. Chair Vasterling. Chair Vasterling, will you please state how you vote on this motion?
Aye.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Payan.
Aye.
All right, the motion to adopt the August meeting minutes passes.
Thank you, members. All right, so moving on to item number 3. This is general public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Commenters, I'd like to remind you that any comments for items that are coming up later on today's agenda should be held until that time. Moderator, can you please open for public comment for items that are not on the agenda?
We are now taking public comment on agenda item number 3, items not on the agenda. All commenters will have 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning and will have 1 opportunity to speak on each agenda item. Please keep comments limited to this agenda item. If you would like to make a comment, those logged into the meeting will raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon next to your name. If you called into the meeting, press star 3. When it's your turn, I will call your name and unmute your microphone. With that, we will go to our first commentor. Craig, Appenglow Farms, you are now unmuted.
Morning, Craig Johnson from Humboldt County, Alpenglow Farms. I just wanted to make a comment this morning for a future agenda item to bring forward the cost of licensing. There was an analysis, I believe, that was called for over the past year. I'm wondering where that came to and what those numbers are. But we really need to look at the cost of licensing for cannabis. If we were to compare it to hemp, it is 5 times the amount, and there's really no need to have it cost as much as it does from my point of view. And with the cost of inflation going forward and all these other things that are impacting farms, let's start treating it like farming and really bring those costs down and possibly even bring back waivers for small farms under a certain amount of square footage or size. That would be a great help to our communities that are really challenged here in the rural parts of Humboldt County or rural parts of California. Thank you so much for the time to speak this morning.
Thank you. Jeff Nordhall, you are now unmuted.
Yes, hi. So I wanted to make sure and respect the rules here. I did want to make a comment that has to do with metric tags, but it's not necessarily about the batch plant tags. And we're experiencing heavy weather right now, so I may lose connection. Could I get permission to speak about the tags, but not specifically the batch topic?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, was just curious if anyone has ever actually tested the actual tags themselves, the actual materials for toxicity. Because for the fun of it, I ended up just sending off some plant tags and package metric tags to 2 separate chemical laboratory labs. And the results from both labs came back that the tags actually tested positive for lead, for arsenic, and for BPA. So just curious if anyone at the state has even thought to look into that. I have not gone through the exercise of testing for safe harbor thresholds and exposures. That's a very complex analysis. But just wanted to put that on the radar that, yeah, there's a possibility that the largest
30 seconds.
product recall in the history of California could actually be these actual plant tags that do test positive for lead, arsenic, and BPA. And I don't have a choice in touching those. I'm being required to handle those. So not thrilled about that. And so anyway, hope some people can look into that further. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Ross Gordon, you are now unmuted.
Good morning, committee members. Ross Gordon on behalf of Origins Council. Wasn't planning to make a comment this morning, but heard Craig's comment and just wanted to second it. I think it would be great for the committee at some point to take another look at reassessing licensing fees. I'm looking back at my records and it looks like the advisory committee considered an item on this about a year ago with open discussion. And I'll say this is, when we survey our members, consistently a really, really high priority. And I think the reason for that is it really specifically is affecting cultivation, in the sense that cultivation is the only type of commercial cannabis business where licensing fees are leveraged based on square feet rather than gross revenue. And since those initial licensing fees were set, the wholesale price of cannabis has dropped by about 85%. And so cannabis cultivators specifically are now paying between 4 and 10 times more licensing fees as a proportion of their gross revenue compared with any other license type. And so it's becoming uniquely unaffordable for cultivators under the current licensing fee structure. And I'll say it's also becoming uniquely unaffordable for smaller cultivators. One thing that we found when we looked into this is that larger cultivators are paying about 48 cents per square foot in licensing fees, whereas smaller cultivators are paying, or rather, larger cultivators are paying 32 cents per square foot, whereas smaller cultivators are paying 48 cents per square foot or more on their cultivation. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for
30
DCC
seconds.
to take a second look at licensing fees, both the overall amount and the equitability of the structure. And just wanted to agree with Craig and put a word in for taking another look at that at a future meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Dominic Black, you are now unmuted.
Hi, my name is Dominic Black from Infinite Cal. I have a question that I'm not sure if you guys are able to answer right away, but I am curious, since Antonio Frazier left, I don't believe anyone has been appointed to this committee that represents testing labs. Is that still the case?
We will not be answering any questions at this time.
Okay. Well, if someone hasn't been appointed, I definitely think that you guys should get on that. A lot of these issues that you've talked about this year could definitely use input from an expert person from the labs. A lot of things such as like pesticides that was on the agenda earlier this year. I haven't heard anything else about that. I think or there definitely needs to be some work done on the pesticide regulations and several other things that have been brought up in these meetings. Other than that, the other thing that I wanted to bring up was potency inflation is getting out of control again. We have seen there have been so many cultivators that I've talked to who say my flower will never test below 30% THC. That is just completely false. Not every strain in the state of California is going to test at 30% THC, and unfortunately, there are labs out there that are making that a reality. Even with
30
the
seconds.
DCC potency method that has been put into place, people clearly aren't using that. We're seeing absolutely ridiculous numbers on the shelves, and more action needs to be taken, whether it's removing labeling or testing for potency on flower altogether or something. Just there needs to be something done. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Sky, you are now unmuted.
Hello, my name is Sky Lewa, Pillsbury Family Farms, and I'm located in Lake County, California, and I wanted to address a serious issue that continues to place licensed operators like my company under duress. The ongoing conflict between state cannabis regulations and how certain counties are applying or misapplying local control. Specifically, I want to highlight the actions by Lake County Community Development Director Maria G. Turner, who directed my company to seek out a sheriff department to overturn a background disqualification. This demand is not outlined anywhere in the DC regulations or in the state county cannabis licensing framework. There is no provision that authorizes the local officials to solicit or influence local enforcement agency in the matters of the state ground background checks. This kind of local overreach places the applicants of the license holders in impossible positions, forced to comply with county imposed steps that have no basis in DCC law or directly contradict the state's established process. I urge the department to clarify the local limits of local authority in relation to the state cannabis licensing and the background review. Two, to create an oversight mechanism where state license operators can file grievances when counties impose unauthorized or conflicting requirements. And three, enforce statewide consistency to ensure that no local government can trump the Department of Cannabis Control regulations by adding extra steps that are not found in the statute or rulemaking. If we're to build a fair and functional legal cannabis system, the department must ensure that local governments cannot operate outside of the bounds of state law or use their positions to pressure applicants.
30 seconds. Thank you for your comment. Melissa Rodriguez, you are now unmuted.
Hi, my name is Melissa. I am with Infinite Chemical Analysis Labs. I wanted to talk about how it's kind of ridiculous how there hasn't been more movement on dual products, or if there has been, it hasn't been communicated. There's an insane amount of dual products on the shelves, and I don't mean mom and pop shops. I mean like huge dispensaries all over California that have entire walls dedicated to dual products, including multi-pack pre-rolls, dual vapes, and multi-flavor edibles, which have been around for 10 plus years. I've had multiple brands tell me that they rather risk the embargo because of how inconsistent the DCC is with regulating dual products. Um, Products will get embargoed from one location, and a notice just gets handed to a random employee on site at the dispensary, not even the manufacturer, the producer of that product gets notified. Um, if the DCC's mission is to provide safe product and regulation, then let us test it so we can ensure that these products are safe when they're landing in consumer hands. That's it.
Thank you for your comment. Haley Miller, you are now unmuted.
Hello, my name is Haley Miller from Infinite Chemical Analysis Labs. I wanted to bring up that this year we've had numerous batches submitted to us for testing at the compliance level that have been locked at metric upon accepting the package. There is something that is happening in the submission process that is not visible to us as the lab nor the distributor or licensee that is submitting to us. Once it gets locked in metric, we ourselves, the lab, as well as our clients, are reaching out to metric and the DCC for advice on how to fix these problems. And rather than being provided any advice or instruction about what is causing the issue, we are instead instructed to request a resampling. Not only is this timely and costly for both sides, it's also impacting our ability to have clients entrust in us when we're accepting these packages, that we're verifying everything. We're requesting more information when we ask for these, weird situations, and more guidance rather than just a resampling. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Call in user 9, you are now unmuted.
Hi, is that me?
Yes, it is.
Okay, sorry. So I'm here to urge you to prioritize public education about the risks of cannabis use during pregnancy. Recent data show a steady rise in marijuana use among pregnant women. Many turn to cannabis for anxiety, nausea, or sleep, often because they fear prescription drugs, or they can't afford care, or they believe that cannabis is safer. But science is showing that THC crosses the placenta and can affect fetal brain development, especially with today's high-potency products. Cannabis use during pregnancy has been linked to preterm birth, low birth weight, and later problems with attention, behavior, and emotional regulation in children. The problem is that many women don't know this. As a mother of 3 young children, I know the difficulties of navigating pregnancies and trying to sort through all the health information during a time when your body changes so much. Mothers face conflicting messages from doctors, dispensaries, online forums, and peers. Some dispensaries even recommend cannabis to pregnant women, despite the known risks. And many healthcare providers don't feel equipped or supported to discuss the issue clearly. Every mother deserves support, but the unborn child cannot speak for themselves. We have a responsibility to protect them through education, compassion, and truth. Thank you for the time.
Thank you for your comment. Anne Riddle, you are now unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh. I appreciate it. Is that an echo coming from me?
I think it might be on your end, yes.
All righty. Let me see what I can do about that. Is there still an echo?
A little bit, yes.
Heck. I'm sorry. Thank you for your patience, guys. I think I'm going to have to sign off and sign back in. I'll give this another shot.
Okay, we'll be here. Thank you. Becky Rapp, you are now unmuted. Becky, are you there for public comment?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Great. Thank you and good morning. My name is Becky Rapp, and I'm a public health educator, and I'm really appreciative of the previous caller and her comments regarding marijuana harm to fetus and to the unborn child. And I'd like to add to that, there was a recent study that was published this year by researchers, and they found that THC directly harms human embryos. IVF embryos exposed to THC showed widespread gene disruptions and a 9% increase in chromosomal errors. And these errors are a leading cause of miscarriages and serve developmental problems. So the science builds on what we already know, and that's marijuana reduces sperm count and the quality of sperm in men, and it interferes with normal brain development in children and leaves lasting marks on DNA. Despite this, the marijuana industry continues to market these products as safe and natural, and pregnant women in particular are being misled, often turning to marijuana without being warned of the risks, and often being sold products at point of purchase when they are pregnant. I really believe that we need to advocate for
30
mandatory
seconds.
warning. Are you there?
Oh, yes, that was just a 30-second warning.
Oh, thank you. I just want to encourage you to consider mandatory warning labels on packaging, clearly stating the risks to fertility, pregnancy, and child development. These are basic public health protections, and we really need to draw attention to this concern. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anne Riddle, should we give this another try? I have you on unmute if you want to go ahead and see if the echo's been fixed.
Can you hear me okay? I guess I still have an echo. So sorry. Am I the last one in the queue?
I can go ahead and move on to someone else if you want to continue doing
Please
a
do.
little bit of.
I apparently have you open, so I'll keep trying to get out of here.
Daniel, you're now unmuted. Daniel, are you there for public comment?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I just thought it was interesting, the two people that had comment about the concerns around pregnant women. And I just think that, you know, education to the consumer and just to the public, especially maybe doctors, that like both positive and negative, we should probably look at the DCC, you know, doing some proactive education there, because I just had a person, you know, who is a medical professional and has really positive experiences with psoriasis, you know, at the age of 60, kind of resolved all of his psoriasis issues using the Ringo's Gift and the grape cookies, these kind of minor cannabinoids. So as a cannabis producer, I think that like I support what they said, and it should go both ways. We really should see, you know, some outreach in the medical world, and maybe the DCC can help make that possible.
Thank you for your comment. Last call for public comment on agenda item number 3, items not on the agenda. Chair Vosterling, I see no further requests for comment. Would you like to close public comment?
Yes, thank you, moderator. Can you please close the comment section?
Public comment for agenda item number 3, items not on the agenda, is now closed.
Great, thank you, moderator. And with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to agenda item number 4 on the agenda. The department is considering regulatory updates to allow batch tagging of cannabis plants rather than requiring tagging of individual plants. I'd like to invite Deputy Director Jacqueline Campion to give us an overview of the input that the department is seeking from the committee and also the public.
Thanks so much, Mr. Chairman. I'm Jacqueline Campion, Deputy Director of Policy and Research for the Department of Cannabis Control. In 2023, SB 622, which was authored by Senator Allen and signed by Governor Newsom, provided the department with some additional flexibility in how plants could be tagged during the cultivation phase. This year, AB 8 by Assemblywoman Aguiar-Curry established the remaining statutory changes necessary for the department to consider allowing larger quantities, of mature plants to be tagged under a single plant tag. Today, the department is seeking input from the committee and members of the public as we consider options for batch tagging of mature plants. In your meeting materials, you have a document that outlines the type of information the department is looking for. The questions that we have posed to the committee are: immature plants can currently be tagged in batches of up to 100 plants on a single tag. Should the department implement a similar structure for mature plants? If you were able to select the number of plants per plant tag or some other structure for your operation, for example, by strain or by row, what would that look like? What limitations or restrictions are appropriate for the department to consider? For cultivators, is batch tagging of mature plants something you would use on your premises? For regulators, for example, local jurisdiction representatives, law enforcement officials, or other state partner agencies, what are the pros and cons of batch tagging from your perspective? Under the department's existing contract with Metric, which is in effect until June 2028, the cost per mature plant remains the same regardless of whether a plant tag is affixed. In effect, the cost to the department is a cost per plant. If batch tagging does not impact the state's Metric contract costs, is batch tagging still worth pursuing? What factors should the department consider related to tagging of cannabis plants as we move towards hemp integration in 2028? The department is also interested in the following data points: estimated time to tag all plants, estimated time to remove tags from all plants if the tags are removed before plant disposal, average amount of time it takes to harvest a harvest batch. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Deputy Director Campion. I'd now like to open the floor for discussion on this topic. Members, the floor is now open.
Well, I'll probably jump in here since I'm the only cultivator besides Scott on the board, and this directly affects both of us. I think that this is a must to move forward to try and save the industry by reducing some of the workload. And it hasn't proven necessary to have every plant tagged where it creates a massive amount of workload, garbage, and I didn't even consider what one of the other callers had mentioned about the toxicity of the actual plant tag itself. So even if it is a small amount, when you have thousands of plants and you have all of those tags that are also required for us to hold on to for whatever auditing purposes, I would imagine that there's some sort of toxicity or environmental issue that comes along with that, with the ink and the plastic itself. That aside, I would like to see us come up with a solution to create the standards for the batch tagging. One obviously is, what do you batch tag? What is in a batch? For us, it makes indoor cultivation maybe a little different than outdoor cultivation, the needs. But for indoor, it'd be pretty easy because you have a uniform strains with the same size in the same room. That would be a pretty easy identification, you know, if they're the same plant tag. We would like to expand or remove the immature batch limit as well. So during cloning, we would like to adjust that plant tagging where there is no limit on the batch itself, because you can produce 10 clones, you could produce 1,000 clones of the same exact strain. So it doesn't make sense for us to also have multiple plant tags on, you know, all the different trays. And then we'd like to explore a different alternative that actually works for, you know, digital tracking, since the RFID tagging system doesn't reliably work in real world cultivation. So that's what I have to say for right now. I promise you I'll have more.
I'll go ahead and jump in. This is Member Beck. I was just going to start by saying that the metric tagging is really a longstanding area of concern and pain point for cannabis farmers. And I think that they've been asking for metric tag relief since the inception of the program. And I believe that the vast majority of farmers would support a drastic decrease in the application of metric tags, whether it's with this current proposal of batching mature plants, and they're all for very sensible reasons, including the reduction in labor costs and costs associated with not only prepping, but applying and removing the tags, and of course the reduction in landfill waste. So I don't know which, there's several questions, but one of the questions was batch tagging, despite there not being a reduction in the state's metric contract costs until June 2028. The question was whether it was still worth it. And I would say that hands down, it's absolutely worth pursuing and expediting. Again, the cost of and environmental savings, and just the plant tags and the zip ties and the tack packaging and the shipments from Florida would be significant for both the farmer, and the planet. I think that, let's see, Member Levine was talking about not like looking also at immature batch tagging and increasing that number. So it's currently limited at 100. So the proposal here is not limiting immature or mature batches to a number, but rather defaulting to an unlimited number based upon strain and plant date. And this another to piggyback also is would like the DCC to consider the replacement of physical tags altogether. So right now we're talking about a drastic reduction from individually tagging each plant to batch tagging, which is going to be like a phased approach, which is reasonable and appropriate. But is there actually a need to tag any of the plants, and can we default to the electronic UID and utilize that as an alternative? And then let's see here. And then there's a question about hemp and how hemp should be treated. And I think that also hemp should be treated like cannabis. That is to say, use of electronic UIDs in the absence of physical tags would be, the first suggestion. If that is not on the table, then unlimited batch tagging at the immature and mature plant phases by strain and by plant date.
This is Vice Chair Pine. I would second that. I mean, the environmental impact that a lot of the regulations have had around tagging, packaging, what have you in the industry have created environmental strain, and that's exactly the opposite of the ethos of most people in this industry, and we need to make that change. Also, the comment in public comment about the toxicity is something that really caught my eye and ear, because cannabis is a bioaccumulator. That is something that I think that we should be looking into and taking very seriously as well.
I'll just pitch in here. It seems like there's so far a lot of agreement, and I want to second everything that's been said. As far as immature batch tagging in mature plant, I think that makes a lot of sense to me. And I think I would expand that and maybe build on Committee Member Levine's recommendation to think about maybe getting away from or lifting the numbers altogether, and think maybe in different metrics in terms of maybe what is in a certain structure, what's in a certain area. Because if we're thinking about what is the purpose of metric, I think one of its largest purposes is to be able to track and trace product. I mean, that's in the name of the program, right? So, so being able to bring it back to the proximate area, the structure it was grown in, to be able to trace certain kinds of contaminants or things that might have happened in that one area would be useful. So an arbitrary kind of limit of 100, I mean, maybe we got that from Oregon, which I think is moving towards batch tagging as well. But I think that maybe thinking along a different line, maybe an aerial line, would be more effective. And I think that kind of begins to pivot us towards what is the purpose of metric, of the track and trace system altogether. And I think it is to get back to a particular area, to be able to identify certain plants that might have been contaminated and gotten into the supply chain. And I think there's good benefits in terms of public health that can come from that.
Yeah, I just
Oh,
want to, this is
sorry.
Member Cohen, or sorry, were you not finished?
One last thing is just, I would also second the idea of digital tagging. I know that that was some of the undercurrents of AB 622 a couple years ago, was the idea of potentially moving to digital tagging. And if the technology is there, why not just get rid of these RFID tags altogether and think about a digital system?
This is Member Cohen. Just want to echo what the other members have said. Um, you know, in terms of batch tagging, you know, there's a lot of waste in terms of the single-use plastic. I was also extremely interested to hear from the public comments about the toxicity itself. Especially with immature batch tagging and clones, that would help tremendously in terms of manual labor. Also, from a public health and employee health perspective, anyone who's ever tagged plants knows that it's an ergonomic nightmare. I'm curious about the cumulative trauma that have gone into workers' compensation claims and repetitive motion claims, and just that aspect of it as well. It definitely, you know, is hard on the body to have to tag every single plant.
So I'd also like to just, if the committee will entertain me for a few moments, is to think about plant tags more generally. And I know this is beyond the purview of today's discussion, but we are, you know, there is a horizon of 2028 with a renegotiation with Metric of the track and trace system. And I think, and I know this would be a statutory issue, something that would likely need to be revised at the state level. At the legislative level. But I just want to, I'm deep in kind of the final calculations on a project I've been working on for a couple of years with a group of researchers at UC Berkeley. And we've been working with some of the metric data, the track and trace system data. There's a lot of challenges that have been posed to us in terms of what it can and can't do. And one thing through my ethnographic work, through the work as an anthropologist working with cultivators for a number of years since legalization has been rolled out, is that anti-diversion, if that is one of the key aims of the metric system, isn't really working at the farm level. And I think we should really focus on where metric and the track and trace system can be effective in diversion, and that really is in the supply chain. Second, the amount of waste that comes from this, I think has been talked about, is enormous. And I also want to say, based on a number of our studies, the cost to the farmers can be measured, of course, in terms of money, the licensing fees, which, by the way, then are used in order to purchase the tags themselves, is how I understand. But also not directly just in terms of money, but also in terms of time, the administration time, the labor time that goes into it. And at the end of the day, these plant tags end up being somewhat inequitable across farmers. An outdoor plant that produces 10 pounds of cannabis, if you're lucky, is quite different from an indoor plant that's going to be producing much smaller amounts. So there's inequity across, I think, plant tags. And then what I've seen over and over again is just simple violations of carelessness or of losing a tag or something like this happens, and then people are held to account. So it actually, the per plant tagging system actually ends up increasing violations quite a bit. Ultimately, what I was recommending earlier is trying to think about, can we get away from these track and trace, the plant tag system, to think about what the purpose of the track and trace system is more broadly. And to my mind, that is in the public health line. What right now, sorry, and I see there's some, Jacqueline, is this all right to do? I know this is around a statutory issue, and I know there is an emphasis on what you can do in terms of DCC regulations. But I do think that reorienting, and questioning whether or not this the plant tag system is actually working or accomplishing its purpose is an important one to consider. This seems to be a potent moment to do it.
Thank you, Member Polson. I appreciate you acknowledging the potential statutory challenges and things to consider in the future. Much appreciated.
I wanted to comment on one of the things about the cost of metric not going down if they were to remove the physical plant tags. When there's an unequal cost to the different farmers based on square footage and plant count. So I could have 10,000 plants in the same area. Somebody could have 500 plants based on the size of the plants. And each person is paying their license fee based on the square footage price, right? If you follow me. So the person that has X amount of, 5,000 or 10,000 plants in the same size area is getting a shitload more tickets. You can't tell me that metric has a reduced costs in one of those or the other and not be able to take that into consideration. Like, the outdoor farmer might have 500 plants in the same area. We have 10,000 plants. That is going to adjust their cost of operating based on reducing it down to batch tagging. I don't understand why they can't make an adjustment to reduce the cost of the license, since my understanding is the cost of our licenses are mostly based around the cost of metric. And if we're reducing their workload and cost, which I don't believe what their excuse was for coming back and saying that they won't reduce it, but I think this is a pretty big topic that we also have to address as well, because they're doing this with no oversight. There's nobody looking over where they're spending their money and how they're doing this. And it's become a monopoly because they also are, and I shouldn't be saying this out loud because they're probably going to come after me now, but there needs to be somebody that oversees metric, where they're allocating the funds. And when we come up with a solution for saving the industry money, that has to be looked at and addressed as well. I didn't figure anybody would have an answer for that. I just threw it out there because it's a pretty big deal.
I'm sure you're not going to be surprised to hear that I also agree with the other members that it would be, time is money. And honestly, I think California should be setting the example, and the amount of single-use waste plastic is also, it's frustrating to me every single season. And the amount of time it takes to manage it with the tag. So I love the idea of digital tagging. If that's a possibility, I would highly recommend that also. Because the reality is regardless of the number of tags, right? I mean, the same number of plants are in the ground, and that is what is being tracked and entered into metric. And so yeah, that's how I feel. I think for me also, and this is, you know, personally, and also representing, you know, the seasonal farmers. I think that time is the essence. You know, we talked about this last year and trying to get something through by the time plants went in the ground. And so what I'd like to ask is that we try to implement something sooner than later, so that you know, our full term farmers have the ability to take advantage of this. You know, I'm talking like the March, April timeframe of when, and I don't know if it's possible to get that implemented that quickly, but I think that would be a huge support to our farming community to be able to take advantage of this going into the next farming season.
Yeah, I would agree with time is very important. And if there's a solution, we would look to maybe the DCC on how do we move this forward faster, considering this has been a topic of conversation multiple times, and here we are now talking about it again. And I think that Scott's right, especially for sun-grown and greenhouse farmers. Everybody's hurting pretty bad, and I think you guys are seeing it at the state level on who's not paying their taxes, and it's you know, obviously the number's growing, and then ultimately farms make desperate moves and they find other ways to pay their bills and feed their families. So more and more product will get diverted out if there is not a solution for reducing the cost to the farmer, because the farmer is the one that eats the most shit.
Are there any other comments by members, or?
How do we move it forward and get it in motion so that we can come up with a date where then everybody has some sort of expectation and understands where they're going to be, and they can plan for their workload? I can tell you that plant tagging, untagging, checking every single tag on your scan system is a substantial amount of work. And if I knew that I can reduce a little bit of my workload or reallocate it towards other areas that are more beneficial to the company, I would start planning that if I had a date. And so cannabis farming takes a ton of planning. Planning is a very intricate thing in farming, with multiple different stages of plant life and different genetics, and creating new genetics, you know, for maybe 2-3 years from now that you're going to grow. So having this locked down is going to be hugely important for us.
I just, Member Beck, I wanted to say one last thing from a local regulator perspective out of Santa Barbara County. We don't see the pros in continuing the use of physical metric tags for specifically for the physical tagging of each individual plant. So it does seem that, you know, in the early years, in an abundance of caution, you know, metric was rolled out, you know, to look at how prevent inversion, diversion, and it seems that over time it's just kind of become a costly inventory control system. And so if you know, the costs are outweighing the benefits, and I think there's an opportunity here to really right size metric and determine its, you know, proper use. And I don't think that the tagging again is something that we rely on in field to accomplish what it originally set out to do.
Director Campion, did I see you raise your hand? Did you have a comment?
I did. Thank you so much, Chair and members, for the discussion and your input. I very much appreciate and hear all of you in talking about the costs and benefits, and this is immensely helpful to the department as we are developing and considering policy concepts now that AB 8 has made it possible to move forward with regulations. With that said, I do want to be honest and be transparent to manage expectations a little bit. Regulatory changes would need to go through the process dictated by the Administrative Procedure Act. And as we know, that's not a fast process. It's intentionally a little bit slow, but to allow for ample opportunities for public input and transparency. And so I don't want anyone to get their hopes up that this is going to happen tomorrow. I just wanted to say that and add a reminder about the Administrative Procedure Act process, and but also to just acknowledge how appreciative the department is of all of this discussion and input.
Could
you
you
tell
also,
us? Oh, go ahead.
just one clarifying question about AB 8. What exactly, I understand it in your memo you sent around that it opens a possibility for tagging larger quantities of mature plants under a single plant tag. Is that different from what, I guess, what was it, AB 622 did? I guess that was a separate issue. But does it still require the same idea that every plant is accounted for, that there's an individual plant tagging and accounting system?
Yeah, that's a great question. We still are required to have essentially a data point or a unique identifier for each plant, but AB 8 clarified that that doesn't need to be a one-to-one relationship with physical tags and plants.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll have a tray of 100 plants, and then it'll be assigned a number, 1 through 100. And then when you allocate individual plant tags, you print out those 100 when they're mature, and then you start tagging them once they're mature. But you could do this all the way through, and just in the system, track the location and plant species or strain without physically having to put the tag on it, and do the same thing as what you're doing in the immature plants. And so in theory, you could remove all of the plant tags, like the physical plant tags. You would still have a number allocated with the unique identification code, and track everything the same exact way, other than there already is a location. There might have to be a subcategory for location in the system to track exactly where those are. And then Jacqueline or anybody from the DCC, what are the next steps to try and move this forward? Like, how do we plan this where we actually have some sort of motion for moving forward?
That's another great question. I will say, since AB 8 was just passed, we're in the very early stages of policy development. We wanted to come to the committee and hear from the members and the public things that the department should consider, as we are in the very early stages of development. So those next steps are we are continuing the conversation and developing those concepts. We'll be speaking with lots of subject matter experts, including those in other states that have gone through the process of batch tagging. We'll be speaking with researchers, getting information from all sources possible as we move forward as thoughtfully as possible and consider all of the potential costs and benefits, and make sure that anything that we're doing is maintaining the integrity of the regulatory system and protecting public health and the environment. So I know that's not very specific, but I'll say we're early in the process and there will be many more opportunities to provide input.
And where can public see the updates and process if there is somewhere, and then also, in other areas to make public comment.
Yeah, that's another great question. On our website and also on the Office of Administrative Law's website, um, all of our regulatory updates are required to be publicly noticed and go through a public comment period, and those are all posted on our website. So if you go to our website and you click on regulations, and then I believe it's proposed regulations on our website, you can see the regulatory packages that we've proposed that are currently going through the process. So that's where regulatory changes would pop up, and members of the public would be notified and have opportunities to provide public comments, which would be added to the public record through that transparent process dictated by the Administrative Procedures Act.
And I know you probably haven't had much time to analyze this, but given the passage of hemp restrictions at the federal level last 24 hours or so, do you have any reflections on what that means for AB8 and particularly for this, tagging allowance?
Bagley Keene flag. This part is a little off topic from our agenda item, but I will acknowledge it's still very early, and we have our government affairs and our legal team looking very carefully at it.
So this isn't something that we file a motion and do all that on. Is there, I mean, I don't know what we would put together here.
I believe we do have the ability to make a motion. If there is a motion that that members would like to put forth.
Well, maybe I'll do it since I had, some requests. I'd like to file a motion for expanding or removing the immature batch limits, allowing operators to batch by genetics or flower room rather than individual plant count. I would like to go to permitting batch level tagging for flowering plants when they are uniform in strain and environment. And then number 3, exploring digital alternatives that actually function as intended, since our RFID tagging system doesn't work reliably.
I second that.
Member Levine, could you repeat your motion one more time?
I would like to file a motion for number 1, expanding or removing the immature batch limits, allowing for operators to batch by genetics or flower room rather than individual plant count. Number 2, permitting batch level tagging for flowering plants when they are uniform in strain and environment. Number 3, exploring digital alternatives that actually function as intended for tracking.
A friendly amendment, if you will, or if it hasn't already moved forward.
Sure, let's hear it.
It is to item 2 about the strain and environment. I'm in agreement. Maybe just specific wording in including in excess of 100 plants. So to think about larger areas that might exceed 100 plants, but that might still be uniform in terms of strain and environment. Just so that's clear.
Wait, I don't understand that, because we're talking about flowering plants on number 2.
Yeah. So if they're above 100 plants that are of the same strain and in the same environment, if they could be part of the same batch, rather than the arbitrary number of 100, I thought.
But the flowering plants don't have a number on them because they're individually tagged. The immature plants are capped at 100, and that's what I had addressed in the first one, in number 1.
Okay. I was figuring that the batch itself could be in excess of 100 plants. Am I still not getting it?
For flowering plants, you could have batches of 20 plants, or you can have batches of 2 plants all the way up to 200, 300, 1,000. If they're all exactly the same and they're in a specific area, it would make sense that that's one batch.
Oh, great. Okay.
And then the limit on the 100 was specifically for immature plants. We are currently allowed to batch up to 100 in the immature plants, but what I'm asking is to remove that limit as long as maybe they're done on they would be done the same date, the same time, but maybe I made 200, maybe I made 400, maybe I made 1,000. It doesn't make sense to keep making batches for the same exact plants when it is still digitally counting, 1 through 500 when I create a batch tag.
Great. I see that now. Thank you.
So I think I'm addressing what you're asking, but it was in the first question.
Yes.
I wonder if it might be easier, Member Levine, if we're able to break that up into 3 different motions, just so that it's clear, if that's easier or preferable by members. That's just an option.
Up to you guys.
I'm fine with the motion as is.
Me too, unless there's anybody who disagrees with one particular part of it, but we haven't heard any of that yet, but now would be the time.
I'm fine with it too. I just wanted to give that as an option if it was easier to understand in separate motions. So it sounds like we do have a motion and we also have a second. Moderator, would you like to repeat the motion?
Yes, give me one moment. All right, so our current motion is to expand or remove the immature batch limits, allowing for operators to batch by genetics or flower room rather than individual plant count. Permit batch level tagging for flowering plants when they are uniform in strain and environment, and explore digital alternatives that function as intended. Member Levine, does that accurately capture
Exactly what I said.
your motion?
Yes.
Wonderful. And it sounds like, do we have a second on this motion? Just reiterating, I think I heard a second from Member Polson. Okay, wonderful. Chair Vasterlin, before we go to a vote, would you like to open up for public comment?
Sure.
All right. We are now taking public comment on agenda item number 4, batch tagging of cannabis plants. All commenters will have 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning, and will have 1 opportunity to speak on each agenda item. Please keep comments limited to this agenda item. If you would like to make a comment, those logged into the meeting will raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon next to your name. If you called into the meeting, press *3. When it's your turn, I will call your name and unmute your microphone. With that, we will go to our first commentor. Looks like we have a call in user number 4. You are now unmuted.
Hello, my name is Hannah Nelson, and I really appreciate the very thoughtful and detailed discussion and the consideration of all the issues. I do want. Hello? Oh, I'm sorry, can you?
Oh, yep.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine. Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was having technical difficulties. I am concerned that good policy should not be hampered by private contracts with companies. I think that all of the considerations already discussed with regards to the environment, the waste, the time, the money, the resources, both on the part of regulators as well as on the part of cultivators, are considerations that outweigh any pending or completed contract that needs to be satisfied. I think the cost benefit analysis for good policy should not be based on those factors. Additionally, I really appreciate the mentioning by one of the committee members of the current system leading to additional violations and perhaps unnecessary violations for very highly technical or overly burdensome issues that are in no way meant to be running awry of the regulations. However, I do have a concern that the presumption is always that that leads to diversion. Instead, I think that one of the considerations, and I do believe that one of the committee members has mentioned this, emergency that we have in the industry, but it's really not about people
30 seconds.
leading to diversion, but rather the shuttering of more and more small farmers and leaving the industry. I would be concerned about digital tags to a certain extent if it requires on-farm connectivity. And thank you so much for your detailed consideration and support of changing the system.
Thank you for your comment. Tim Dower, you are now unmuted. Tim, are you there for public comment?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My husband and I, Tim Dower, that's the name on the call. My name is Shannon Hughes. I'm a farmer on Willow Creek up in Humboldt County, and I'm actually talking today for my public comment, wearing two different hats. My other job is that I do metric data entry for almost 200 facilities within California, Oklahoma, and Oregon as well. So I have kind of two perspectives on this. I love the conversation that's happening. Oregon does already allow batch tagging. However, it is a little clunky. It would be really best if the tags could have a custom amount of plants, as has been referenced by the group, instead of incremental as Oregon does it. So I would advise against exactly the way that Oregon is doing it. Moving location and phase without having to assign new tags would be totally feasible within the metric program. So I definitely supported that comment as well. One tag per strain per location would be sufficient, and no limit on immature batches would be helpful for everybody. That would be wonderful. The cost of metric absolutely must be reduced if they're not producing the same amount of physical tags. That is just out of sheer logic. I think that would be something that DCC would be able to have a conversation with them about when the contract renews, if not sooner. So I'm going to talk, I'm a farmer, so I have to deal with all these tags. And I know we've already heard about how wasteful it is. Let me tell you, it's heartbreaking. I really hate seeing all the garbage. I hate having to handle these tags, knowing that they are toxic. It's actually really upsetting. I'd love to see some more information about that so we know what we've been exposed to over the years. Also, just a little
30
heads
seconds.
up. Thank you. The inspectors that are coming to our farms, they're not bringing scanners. They're taking photos of tags and they're counting plants. So already the tags are pointless. The process before we put the tags on the plant, they come with these little blue punch marks, and each of those blue punch marks has to be removed so it doesn't get mixed into the soil as you're having them out in the field. I don't use zip ties. I use natural fiber. So it basically creates arts and crafts time for me and takes me off of the farm. It's time consuming.
Thank you for your comment. Whitney, you are now unmuted. Sorry, Whitney. It sounds like we're having a little bit of trouble with your audio. You want to try that again? Oh. All right. Abe, you are now unmuted. Abe, are you there for public comment?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, coming in loud and
Okay,
clear.
perfect. Thank you. And good morning to everyone. I wanted to recommend, I'm a farmer up here in Grass Valley, Nevada County. I wanted to recommend batch tagging anywhere between one tag for 500 or even up to 1,000 plants. That will save us a lot of time and effort on tagging everything. I'm less for tagging by rooms. That's good for indoor, not for sun-grown farms. Um, Definitely keeping the 100 batch for the immature. That's good. We can also try to increase that, but anything when the flowering stage, it has to go up to 500, even to 1,000. I think that would be appropriate. And also, I wanted to add that a lot of the waste, also, I use zip ties. I tried all a bunch of other natural stuff. They just don't hold in the sun and the water. So it is also, I use over 5,000 Ziplocs during the season. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is the harvest batches on the metric
30
itself.
seconds.
The system allows only up to 140 tags to be highlighted and harvest at one time, and that causes me to break down one batch into 7 different harvests, and it's a pain in the butt later creating packages. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Craig, Appenglow Farms, you are now muted.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good morning, Craig from Alpenglow Farms, Humboldt County. I would like to point out that it might be good to hear public comment before a motion is made. I completely agree with Member Levine. I really appreciate everything he has brought forward for this. Spot on. A lot of thought went into that. As to how do we move forward quickly? How do we get something that we can work with this year? Let's do batches up to 1,000. Let's just get something going. I could see to do a bigger change, it's going to take a lot more time. How do we work within the parameters that are in front of us right now? To the point of diversion and metric helping this on the farm, no one's diverting. Come on. Like the price in the traditional market is peanuts. It's not even a financial move to make. The current market that we have within the California legal system is much better than the traditional market at the moment. And we're really not seeing the possibility of diverting product. We need a product that once it leaves the farm, then it could be possibly diverted. Then let's continue with the batch tag and the sticker to move product off the farm. But my farm, 10,000 square feet, the inspector moves on.
30 seconds.
They can see the map. Everything within that square footage is legal and is accounted for. It doesn't need its own ankle bracelet. Each of those plastic tags has a metal component in it. Where does that come from? Is that coming from China? When are we going to have the ticker tape parade of all these metric tags that we have never disposed of yet because there is a recycling program that should be coming along? And I think we could have this ticker tape parade when Gavin Newsom moves out. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Whitney, you are now unmuted.
Hi, thank you. Good morning. My name is Whitney Colley. I'm with Pacific Stone, and I'd like to thank everyone for the discussion today. We agree with the committee's comments. We would like to see batch tags adjusted from 100 plants to unlimited plants for immature and mature plants. Suggest limiting by strain or planting date or room. For example, all plants harvested in a 3-day period can be the same harvest batch if they are the same strain. We would like to see that applied to plant batches as well. Batching would be worth pursuing regardless of metric contract restrictions for operator costs and environmental impacts. Our operation would certainly adopt batch tagging provided that the batch sizes were reasonable. A harvest batch takes us roughly 16 hours to tag and 32 hours to harvest. Or in other words, we can tag about 1,100 plants per hour and harvest about 570 plants per hour. We're very excited about the prospect of streamlining the tagging process without affecting compliance. Thank you so much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you for your comment. Daniel, you are now unmuted.
Hey, yeah, I agreed with all the comments, the board has had so far. So just seemed like the motions maybe could have gone a little bit further, in a sense that it seemed like everybody was kind of in agreement that maybe the plant tags are useless physically altogether. So I would say I would have loved to see you guys go a little further and just say, hey, the physical plant tags are unnecessary. They can be tracked digitally. And it seemed like everybody on the board also acknowledged that.
Thank you for your comment. Diana, you are now unmuted. Diana, are you there for public comment? All right, Ross Gordon, you are now unmuted.
Russ Gordon, again, on behalf of Origins Council, appreciate this conversation today. Not going to talk too much about all the amazing reasons that have been discussed in detail about why moving to some form of batch or virtual tagging would be a good idea. I think really appreciate the discussion on the committee about this, and also the conversation on this that's happened over years now in the legislature, dating back to 2023. And I think among farmers dating back to 2018. I really feel this is a topic that's been run into the ground, has been vetted to death, and really want to encourage more than anything else, just moving quickly and trying to get something done, if at all possible, for the 2026 planting season. We've already missed several years of implementing this after SB 62 passed in 2023. We're on the verge, I think, of missing the opportunity for the 2026 planting season as well. If it can be implemented even, midway through 2026 and in July, for example, I think that would still make a big difference for people who are planting, for example, their second runs, and totally understand and appreciate the comment from staff that Administrative Procedure Act takes time. And of course, that's for a reason that the state wants to solicit and provide opportunity for public feedback. But I also think anything that the DCC can do to expedite the process in terms of, one, starting that regulatory promulgation sooner rather than later, and then doing, whatever is possible to wrap that up quickly, I think will make a huge difference. And I feel we're just at the point in this process where the case has been made, and there are some specific details to work out, and we're looking forward to providing more comment on that in the future. But I don't think that should hold us back from moving as quickly as possible to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. David, you are now unmuted.
Comments and agree with Member Levine as the other comments from the other operators. Speaking from a perspective from a tissue culture nursery operator, there's the cumbersome, labor and tagging and, waste, all those things, comments will come. We got a lot more time. If we can expedite the implementation of what's been said, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Thank you for your comment. Diana, you are now unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Excellent. Hi, everyone. This is Diana Gamzon, Executive Director of the Nevada County Cannabis Alliance. And we are an advocacy association here based in Nevada City, representing nearly 200 businesses in the Nevada County area. And we agree with the committee's recommendations today and really appreciate the thorough conversation and deliberations. And one of the things that we really do support is just a common sense approach to the whole tagging or batch tagging and track and trace. And what we really like about the recommendation is not limiting the number of plants by a specific number, but having the boundaries be whether it's the strain or the room or area on the for an outdoor garden location outside, so that can serve as the basis for how many plants are going to be within this zone. We really liked doing it by strain. Majority of our farmers here are outdoor and in greenhouses. And if there did have to be an actual plant count, then whatever the upper limit is to give the maximum flexibility. So whether that's up to 1,000 plants or even more, as committee member Paulson pointed out, 100 plants is really, it's really an arbitrary number to begin with. And so we really need to provide the maximum amount of flexibility for just a common sense approach. And Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Hannah White, now unmuted. Hannah, are you there for public comment?
I am sorry. We had a little glitch here storming on the North Coast. Hannah White with Humboldt County Growers Alliance. I'm also a cultivator, and I appreciate the committee's understanding of the assignment here today. We need to reduce costs. We need to reduce time and stress out of the field, and I appreciate the understanding that the committee members have brought to this discussion that we have been having for many years. I do want to address specifically the question that was raised: if the plant tags individually, that cost can't be negotiated through metric as the contract exists through 2028. There is absolutely in the field savings for cultivators to be able to implement these batch tagging, as soon as possible. I cultivate over 10,000 plants on my farm every year. That's under an acre, sun-grown, mixed style of field and greenhouse cultivation. Depending on the density of planting, on average, we're talking 3 to 5 minutes per plant, and that is locating tags, applying the tags, checking the tags, sometimes changing how they're applied to plants as they grow and develop throughout the season, and then removing the tags. That's coming at upwards a cost of $10,000 to $15,000 in labor for my business. And so, understanding that
30
everyone
seconds.
has different sizes of cultivation, that savings for time, stress, are absolutely a benefit to all producers across all levels of and styles of production and the system, and appreciate your consideration to move to batch tagging as the motion has been made, as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Jeff Nordahl, you are now unmuted.
Yes, just making sure you can hear me.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. So just wanted to say, follow up again on the lab testing of the tags themselves. So I did get these tested, the plant tags and the package tags, by 2 separate labs. And these are both cannabis accredited labs. So these are legit labs. I would like to offer that I could share that data with the DCC. I'd also be happy to share that data with the UFCW. I see a representative from UFCW's here, because members, employees are actually handling these tags without any warning that they do indeed have lead, arsenic, and BPA, and maybe some other chemicals. So anyway, I would be happy to share that data. Now, as far as the contract with Metric, if we want to get out of the contract early, I'm not sure, maybe that's breach of contract, that they are providing a toxic product that may actually be in violation of Prop 65. And that would be an interesting little plot twist here if the largest cannabis product recall in the history of California may actually be the actual Metric plant tags themselves. DCC has supposedly a very robust lab, so maybe something that could be done by the DCC in the state is to actually
30 seconds.
test these tags that we are right now being forced to handle without any warning. And you could be exposing yourself to 1,000 of these, touching your hands to your mouth without any warning. So maybe a public service announcement from DCC, maybe the UFCW should alert their members that these tags actually have tested positive. I'd be happy to share those lab results with you.
Thank you for your comment. Adrian Keys, you are now unmuted. Adrian, are you there for public comment?
I'm trying. Am I there? Yes, it looks like it is. There was a weird glitch right when the mute button was coming on and off. I'm Adrian Keys, Trinity County Agriculture Alliance, and I just wanted to, everything's pretty well been spoken to. I want to say how much I agree with many of the callers on here, particularly the farmers who actually do this work in the field on a regular basis, that any, and I think the motion does a pretty good job of approaching this, but any of this sort of movement in this direction, I'm grateful for, and I want to thank you very much for your time today, and have a good one. That's it for me.
Thank you for your comment. John Brower, you are now unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks. I also agree with most of the comments, and think it's a thoughtful motion that's been made. However, I think it'd be important to add to the motion or amend it to describe a batch as being within a definable boundary area, whether it be immature plant or mature plant canopy area. It's just so the language stays consistent, and it's easier to ensure compliance, both for the licensee and the inspectors.
Thank
Instead
you
of,
for your comment.
yeah, so instead of
Oh.
using a term like space or flowering room, it could be a definable, within a definable boundary, within either immature plant or mature plant canopy areas. Thanks.
Thank you. Janine Coleman, you are now unmuted.
Hi, this is Janine Coleman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Janine Coleman with Origins Council, and really appreciate the conversation. I want to add emphasis to many comments and apologize, I didn't quite catch the motion. So I'm going to recommend some potential amendments that may already be included, but if they're not included, would recommend adding a motion to emphasize urgency in terms of pursuing virtual tagging, batch tagging as quickly as possible. And I also want to second John Brower's comments regarding defining the area and using defining an area for purposes of batching and having that be flexible, because there are many, many, many different iterations of how folks cultivate indoors, outdoors, mixed light, pots, beds, areas, etc. So I think some flexibility would be helpful for all involved, and really appreciate seeing this moving forward. And again, just want to emphasize the urgency. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you for your comment. Michelle, you are now unmuted. Michelle, are you there for public comment?
I am sorry, I didn't hear my name. Yes, I just want to, I want to really appreciate the motion that's out there. I think it was very well worded. It does leave for room for flexibility. And also I want to speak to the urgency of getting this done. But the other thing I want to mention is that if metric is not serving us, then maybe we need to do something else, because if we try to match regulations to metrics needs, that's not serving us. And I hate to be pretentious about this, but we're California. It seems like if it's not working for us, we should be able to figure out tech that does work for us and that is malleable enough to adjust when we need to adjust. And I just, again, want to appreciate your work and thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Malik, you are now unmuted. Oops. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing the name. Malik, you are now unmuted.
Good morning. Am I being heard?
Yes, loud and clear.
Excellent. My name is Malik King. I've been a California licensed vocational nurse since 2003 and a California registered nurse since 2007. And I just want to say thank you all for moving forward on something as simple as recycle, reduce, reuse. Now with this batching, we'll be able to reduce. And if we're allowed to do what the previous caller had said, virtual batching, which I didn't even think of that, is even cooler to recycle and reduce and reuse. So thank you for even moving forward with this. And hopefully this will prepare us for the greatest well-being for the most amount of people. Thank you all.
Thank you for your comment. All right, last call for public comment on agenda item number 4, batch tagging of cannabis plants. Chair Vesterling, I see no further requests for comment. Would you like to close public comment?
Moderator, thank you. Can we please close the comments?
Public comment for agenda item number 4, batch tagging of cannabis plants, is now closed.
Great, thank you. I think at this time, if I'm able, I'd like to reopen the floor to members to see if there's any additional comment or adjustments we want to make to the motion after public comment.
This is Member Heidelbach. Can we reread the motion, please?
Yes, the current motion is to expand or remove the immature batch limits, allowing for operators to batch by genetics or flower room rather than individual plant count, to permit batch level tagging for flowering plants when they are uniform in strain and environment, and explore digital alternatives that function as intended.
Thank you.
So I heard some of the things that the public was, some amendments that they may have wanted to put in there, and one of them being the urgency. I don't know that that's gonna change anything if we add this language in there due to the governmental process is out of our control. And I think we went over this earlier in our comments that we can only move as fast as the process allows, and the process is out of our control. So I don't know that we add that to it. And then I agree, we do need to do something other than metric, but from my understanding, the state has a contract with Metric, and you're not changing that contract unless it goes to court. So somebody would have to raise some legal action to make that change outside of the terms of the contract. And I don't think that can be done in this motion as well.
I agree that I don't know that it's a motion, but just so that it is stated, although respecting the administrative process, that this is an urgent implementation. So I'd just like to suggest that we do recommend that we try to move forward with the implementation of this before the next cultivation cycle next season. Like I said, I don't know that that's a motion, but I'd like it to be stated that I hear the public comment, I hear what members are saying, and I think it is timeliness is important.
Yeah, and that's why I had asked that follow-up question about where can we get information as they're going through their process, so that myself and everybody else can at least see the progress. It didn't sound like they could actually put a date on it. I'm with you. I would like this to be done tomorrow, but it didn't sound like the DCC had a very clear path on an actual timeline.
Are there any other comments by members?
I was just sorry. I was just looking at I think the language was explore digital alternatives. And that's probably the best language. I would like to use a different word besides explore, like utilize, but that we might not be in that place. But if there was any stronger word choice, but that might just, be a preference. So I'm okay as it's worded. I was just curious if there was an ability to.
I think we have to look at what options are there before we would put something like that in place, because
Mhm.
there's going to be a few different ways of doing this,
Right.
and I think it's fairly basic. It's, you know, adding another location in metric, sub-location on metric, and it might be a product category for tagging that batch in there. I don't think it's a huge lift, but it would be something that would have to happen in your seed to sale tracking software if you're using it, or and for sure in metric. So it would be a collaboration between you know, this moving forward, but also the software platforms would adjust as metric adjusts.
Any other comments by members? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and close those comments. Moderator, are you able to once again, please read the motion before we take roll call?
Yes, the current motion is to expand or remove the immature batch limits, allowing for operators to batch by genetics or flower room rather than individual plant count. Permit batch level tagging for flowering plants when they are uniform in strain and environment, and explore digital alternatives that function as intended.
Great, thank you. Moderator, can you please call the roll?
When I call your name, please first restate your name before voting to ensure your vote is properly captured this time. Member Beck,
Carmela Beck, aye.
Member Cohen,
Avery Cohen, aye.
Member Levine,
And in Levine, yes.
Member Melanie Perry,
Melanie Perry, aye.
Member Polson, Member Ramirez,
Stephen Ramirez, aye.
Member Heidelbach,
Kristen Heidelbach, aye.
Chair Vasterling,
Vasterling, aye.
and Vice Chair Payan.
Aye.
All right, the motion to expand or remove the immature batch limits, allowing for operators to batch by genetics or flower room rather than individual plant count, permit batch level tagging for flowering plants when they are uniform in strain and environment, and explore digital alternatives that function as intended, passes.
Thank you, everyone, for all of your comments and to our community. So thank you. Let's go ahead and move on to agenda item number 5. This is recommendations for future agenda items. Members, I'd like to open up the floor to you at this time for any input on future agenda items.
Considering I like to talk a lot, I guess I'll throw one in there. I want to raise a future event agenda item to audit the allocation of licensing fees and perform a checks and balances for Metric, since they are a private organization and have created a monopoly. I just think that one, the public should be involved in this and uncovering some of the things that we're all wondering about, and then to have the discussion of like, how can it be more efficient, which we're finding some efficiencies as far as I can see if we remove the plant tags and things like that, but there's no real oversight, and the public has no perspective of what's really going on. So if we could maybe talk about that in the future and how do we get that information, and what we do with it would be great.
I agree with that as well. Thank you, Member Levine. I think a review of the cost of licensing to make sure that it's fair and equitable across all license holders, I think would be a very good conversation for us to have on a future agenda item. Are there any other suggestions by members? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and close comments by members.
Well,
Moderator?
one thing, I know during our last meeting, we had discussed a few things, and in that discussion, we were going to come back to some of them. I don't know if now's the right time, but like one of the future agenda items should be re-looking at those motions that we filed with the intent to look at them in as they progressed through. I think the DCC's hands, or whoever was in charge of pulling up the information and creating that pathway for reviewing that information again.
Great. Thank you, Member Levine. Last call. Any other members have comments? I'll go ahead and close comments. Moderator, can we now open the floor for public comment for suggestions on future agenda items, please?
We are now taking public comment on agenda item number 5, future agenda items. All commenters will have 2 minutes to speak with a 30-second warning and will have 1 opportunity to speak on each agenda item. Please keep comments limited to this agenda item. If you would like to make a comment, those logged into the meeting will raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon next to your name. If you called into the meeting, press *3. When it's your turn, I will call your name and unmute your microphone. With that, we will go to our first commenter. Rick, you are now unmuted. Rick, are you there for public comment? Ann Riddle, you are now unmuted. Ann, are you there for public comment? Looks like we're having some technical difficulties with all this bad weather. Ann, I'll come back to you in just a moment and we'll try again. Abe, are you there for public comment?
Yes. Thank you. So I wanted to bring up last week the California Treasurer Fiona May. She right out loud said that the legalization framework is a failure and everything needs to be stopped and started over. So I think that's a good topic for agenda of how we stop this legalization framework that's a failure and try to build a new one. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick, are you there for public comment?
Yes, can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to bring up the practice that the DCC has of abandoning applications. It is, to me, in my not only situation, but in my view, keeps a lot of participants out of the state licensing program by the fact that it makes them redo everything all over again as far as their applications, paying all the fees once again, and then waiting 6 months to a year to even be looked at by a DCC scientist or liaison. So going forward, I would like to see something that, now we live in an age of being able to bring up information at the press of a button, we can bring all of the information back and actually have that participant get into the system. It just makes me say that the last few times I've been an applicant, I've been abandoned while actually working with a liaison or a scientist at the DCC. And once it's abandoned, there doesn't seem to be any way to go back or any way to talk to anybody to make the situation correct. That's all I have for right now.
Thank you. Anne, you're now unmuted.
Thank you, Ann Riddle here. You can hear me okay?
Yes, sounds good.
I'm so glad I solved my audio problems. I live near the University of California in San Diego and have people associated with the School of Medicine there. And they have been releasing information regarding cannabis use and gene change. And I just want to read it for the future. I think we need to study this more carefully. I think we dismissed previous callers' concern about appropriate education for pregnant women. And I think we're all very concerned here in public health that we have bud tenders, bud keepers, whatever you call them, giving information to pregnant women instead of referring them on to their doctor. Now, granted, maybe you have some doctors that you know that think it's okay, but the research that's coming out regarding gene changes that occur to people who use cannabis is of grave concern. And for pregnant women, they need appropriate information. And I don't think that bud tenders are the people to be giving it. We have a whole generation of children whose lifetime outcome in their public health arena could be affected by a bud tender's bad advice. So perhaps you could have a future agenda item that takes a good look
30 seconds.
Regarding the research associated with gene changes due to marijuana use. And let's get the information out there, and let's not have bud tenders telling pregnant women that this is an answer when the research doesn't support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, you are now, oops. Michelle, I think I accidentally lowered your hand. If you want to pop back up, we'll get you on our next comment. Oh, there you are. Michelle, you're now unmuted.
Okay, I'd like to see if we can find out what the cost of the tags are to the plant tags to DCC and how that affects our licensing fees. That would be really interesting because I heard the number 21 million, but I'd like to know what the real number is, what those do cost. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Becky, you are now unmuted.
Good afternoon. My name is Becky Rapp, and I work in the public health arena. And I am deeply concerned about the rising threat of the drug impaired driving, specifically on high potency THC products. And I would like to see this come forward as a agenda item in the future. There was a horrific crash that took place in my county, and the driver admitted that they had been smoking 7 grams of marijuana, and then they were driving over 100 miles an hour, crossing 5 lanes of traffic that triggered a 5-car pileup. This is definitely something that is preventable. And there's a dangerous misconception that whatever marijuana you purchase at your local pot shop is a safe drug to consume, especially when driving. But obviously the data is telling us a very different story. And the National Institute on Drug Abuse confirmed that marijuana significantly impairs motor coordination, reaction time, and decision-making, which are all essential for safe driving. So studies are showing that driving under the influence of marijuana doubles the risk of a crash. And when it's combined with alcohol, the impairing effects are exponentially greater. And in California, we're up to 40% of all DUI arrests now involve drugs.
30 seconds.
So I just would like to see this item come forward. We have no legal THC threshold and no roadside THC test equivalent to a breathalyzer. And there's very limited public education on this issue. And I would just like to see this come forward and discussed at the state level. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel, you are now unmuted.
Yeah, I just, I can say, I know there's opposition, but I do think that like the people that have concerns about cannabis use, I do, think all their concerns are really valid and that should also equally be represented, kind of the medical community as well as the patient. And that I think it would be interesting to see how the DCC could maybe, educate people on the endocannabinoid system, and when maybe there are appropriate concerns that are also, kind of voiced. So does the DCC interact with the medical community, and do they interact with like the medical patient community? And I'd like to see that be equal. So it seems like the DCC has some, access to some knowledge, some education, and I would like to see some funding kind of align with the medical community. Thank you.
Thank you. Hannah White, you are now unmuted.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. Not quite. I just want to support the future agenda items that were brought forward by committee member Levine and Scott Basterling, and think it's important in consideration of removal and requirement of individual plant tagging in lieu of batch tagging, and how the correlation of our license fees are directly associated to the cost of metric tags. That license fees can also be reconsidered in light of plant batch tagging implementation. Thank you.
Thank you. John Brower, you are now unmuted.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like a future agenda item that addresses DCC enforcement of hemp. Now that the hemp-derived THC is legal in California and seems like may not be legal nationwide soon. Like to have a discussion about DCC's authority and hopefully a plan of action to enforce that. That unfortunately that loophole has resulted in the undermining of I think everything that everybody on this panel has worked so hard for: age gating, public health and safety, the environmental commitments of licensed cannabis, and so on and so on. I think it's an important topic, and we need to get the DCC more involved in this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last call for public comment on agenda item number 5, future agenda items. Jeff Nordall, you are now unmuted.
Hi. All right. Well, still hanging out here. So just for future items, I just want to state that, yeah, well, one, I was deeply involved with a bill this year called AB 1332, which was trying to address the medical patient access crisis that's happening in California right now. And we were working to try and figure out just basically we live in a Amazon, DoorDash type, Netflix type world right now. And in California, we're shipping alcohol, wine that just got approved again, hard alcohol. We can ship prescription drugs. We can ship pretty much anything within California. But the one thing we're not allowed to actually ship is licensed lab tested medical cannabis products to the most severely ill medical patients here in California. So I think a lot of people don't realize that there actually is an access issue right now. And this was actually warned in the Blue Ribbon committee report about the recreational market drowning out the medical products. In Prop 64, there were a lot of promises about medical patient access was a like core tenet and foundation of the industry. Senator Wiener recently passed a bill that was
30 seconds.
yeah, for the Medical Patients Right of Access Act. But right now, if you hear from these families, just no one can find appropriate medical products anymore. And it's becoming more and more of a crisis. So we'd like to just get that on the radar that somehow we need to figure out a solution, because these are the core. This was the whole foundation of legalizing legalizing cannabis.
Thank you. Malik, you are now unmuted.
Excellent. Am I being heard?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you so much. Once again, thank you all for your hard work and dedication and pioneering a lot of this. A lot of what you guys have said and done is very noble. And for those that are in opposition, your opposition is valid, and we appreciate that. It helps us move forward with more positivity. I'd like to superimpose on the agenda item that the previous gentleman just mentioned about safe access. I don't think I need to say more than what he just said, but it's imperative. Thank you.
Thank you. Last call for public comment on agenda item number 5, future agenda items. All right, Chair Vasterling, I see no further requests for comment. Would you like to close public comment?
Moderator, please close comments.
Public comment for agenda item number 5, future agenda items, is now closed.
Great, thank you, moderator. And thank you, everybody, for your suggestions. We will keep all of these suggestions in mind as the committee and membership works with the DCC for future agendas. So thank you. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to the last agenda item, which is adjournment. So members, thank you all for your time today. We look forward to seeing you all again at the next meeting. So with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.